Today we've got a great revenge story on somebody that decided having a full volume speaker in a shared space was a good idea. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, thanks for letting me use your rewards. This will be short and sweet. All I wanted was a bubble tea to get me through an afternoon slump. I walked the 5 minutes from my office to the store, and there's a small line ahead of me, which isn't unusual for this area. Tourist-heavy city. Standing ahead of me are a gaggle of probably college-age girls talking loudly over each other, and while not directly inconveniencing anyone, they were a tad annoying. I had my headphones in and my sunglasses on still, and they seemed to think that I wasn't paying attention. They pay for their drinks and are moving over to the pickup when one of them leans over and says, "Hey, put my phone number in for the points for the next one." And at this point, I realize that I am the next one. The girl behind the counter looks uncomfortable about the whole thing, but doesn't say anything as the gaggle walk away to pick up their orders. Now, I don't drink bubble teas often enough to rack up rewards points, but they add up to a $5 discount when you get enough. And I was a bit grumpy over the audacity of these girls to just enter their phone number for someone else's order. I'm getting ready to ask the girl behind the counter to clear the screen so I could enter my own phone number when I see that there's a little button for $5 on the account. I don't know if their last order got them the reward or if they already had one, but the second I saw that button, I realized what I had to do. I push the button and the girl behind the counter sees the notification and then just smiles and processes the order. Now, I didn't really have to do this and it might have been a little over the top, but I put the biggest smile on my face and walked over to the pickup and said, "Hey, thanks for letting me use that reward. That was very kind of you to pay it forward." The shock on their faces put a smile on mine for my walk back to work. Look, if you're in line and you see that go down and you see that $5 off coupon button sitting there right in front of you, how many of you guys are not gonna press that button? Because I would be pressing it every single time. I mean, if anything, they're lucky they didn't have like an auto pay system tied into the whole rewards phone system thing too. Could you imagine if OP not only drained their rewards points but also got them to pay for their order too? Date commented, "This probably wasn't the first time they hijacked points from customers behind them in line, but I bet it was the first time they got caught trying. Good job." Technos commented, "Just before the pandemic, I was in line behind a pair of teenage goth girls at my local coffee place. First, they want to know what's in, well, about half the menu board. Then, they want 2 cappuccinos. Ooh, says one of them, and whipped cream? Oh, and what about marshmallows, says the other. And then they don't want the cappuccinos. No, if they're getting whipped cream and marshmallows, they want hot chocolate. There's only one barista working, so I wait while they pay and their drinks are made. When I get up to the counter, I see it. Their punch card, buy 5, get the 6th for free, don't you know, which the barista had returned with their receipt, is sitting on the counter along with a 9-cent tip. I said, "Excuse me, ladies, Up goes the left hand and middle finger of one of them, who giggles and hip checks her friend. Up goes a second hand and second finger from the friend. Neither even bother looking back as they walk out. Me to the barista said, "Guess they don't want their free drink. I'll have an Americano, please." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. That said, our next story is loud music at 2 a.m. I found the perfect way to shut her up. When I was in college, I had this neighbor in the dorms named Sarah. Sarah wasn't evil, just loud. Every night she would blast music at 1 or 2 a.m., usually when I had an early class. No matter how many times people asked her to turn it down, she would laugh it off and say, "Relax, it's college." One night before a big exam, I was desperate for sleep. I knocked on her door around midnight and asked politely if she could lower the volume just a little. She smirked, said, "Sure," and cranked it even louder. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, absolutely fuming. The next morning, after my exam, I decided I wasn't going to let it slide. Sarah was notorious for sleeping in late, usually till noon, and she hated mornings more than anything. So, for the next week, I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. sharp, right when the hall was dead quiet, and placed my Bluetooth speaker against the very thin wall we shared. I blasted the cheesiest pop songs I could find, think bubblegum boy bands from the early 2000s. The first day, she stumbled out of her room groggy and furious. By day 3, she started begging me to stop. I just smiled and said, "Relax, it's college." Funny enough, after that week, her late-night concerts mysteriously stopped. She never admitted defeat, but the silence was golden. Well, the good thing for OP is they don't need her to open her mouth and admit defeat. Instead, they would rather her relax, it's just college, and stop making any sound at all. Realistically, with any situation like that, whether it's like an apartment or a bad roommate or a dorm mate kind of thing, if the landlord or the RA or even like a noise complaint to the cops isn't going to cause anything to happen, what OP did here is kind of like your only recourse. You find out when that music would be completely inconvenient for them, and you give them the exact same treatment. Clunk234 commented, "We had neighbors like that. They would party until around 4 a.m. most weekends and odd nights during the week. I was a shift worker on early shift, 6 a.m. start, so I was up usually at 4:30 to 5 a.m. I was offered to do nights instead, so I would get home for 6:30 a.m. and blast whatever music I liked and made all kinds of noise, vacuuming, banging around, etc. The complaints from them were glorious." Opposite Lie 6032 commented, "In my freshman year of college, our dorm was laid out so 2 rooms would share one door before getting to the locked door for your dorm room. The room next to mine loved to let their door slam shut late at night all the time. As someone taking 8 a.m. classes, this was annoying, so every night they did that, I would let my door slam shut the next morning when I left for class." Our next story is, "Excuse me. A few decades ago, I was studying engineering in college. That meant engineering books, which are generally large and hardback. That means my backpack could approach 20 pounds on a bad day. This was a heavy packed day. One of my classes was in an old building where the classrooms were not well designed. The class of about 50 students had one 36-inch wide door to exit, which meant single file, as we all had large packs full of books. The process was slow at best. It was like a large sink with a small drain. The door opened into a wide hallway where the next class waited to enter. Sometimes, people from the next class would try to enter while the last class was exiting. Not ideal, but can be done if people are aware and limit their time in the doorway. One day, there was a guy standing in the doorway talking to a friend. He could have taken a step back and to the side or forward and to the side and not impeded flow. Nope. Junior had to stand in that spot and make people squeeze past him. I decided to open the drain, remove the clog, flush the turd. I slung my book bag on my right shoulder, walked quickly towards the door, and as I entered the doorway, turned sideways so I could pass through and said, 'Excuse me.' My body could fit the gap he left in the doorway. Book bag could not. My book bag swung around my body and caught him full in the chest. He was knocked out of the doorway and speechless as he didn't expect the hit, nor was it obvious that I'd planned it. I kept walking, and a friend from class caught up to me. He was laughing as he was behind me and had a front row seat. I don't know why, but when I read this story, in my head, it was like cartoonish almost. Like some Ed, and Eddie sound effects where they're like, 'Excuse me,' and then they turn and hit them with the book bag and there's like this loud cartoonish wham. Maybe break out some of the little swirling ducks around their head too. Nisi Marie commented, "Today, that dude is the one that leaves his shopping cart in the smack middle of the aisle and then takes another quarter of it up while he's browsing the shelves looking for that very special can of creamed corn." Ald Guy commented, "It never ceases to amaze me how clueless people are when they're inconveniencing others. At airports, the hallways are wide. You can't step over to the wall if you have to stop. You have to stand right in everyone's way. I've purposely, accidentally rammed my bag into theirs on occasion. Gotta make a point. There was one way in and out of that room and he blocked it." Our next story is, "My roommate keeps bringing visitors over all the time without warning? No problem. I have the solution. In my youth, I had to share a room countless times. Sometimes I had excellent roommates and other times I didn't, but the worst by far was Mr. John, fake name. Mr. John and I shared a room in the 90s, and it was a nightmare to be with him. There wasn't a week when his friends wouldn't come over to play N64, roleplay, or argue about comics and manga. I didn't have a problem with that, but they would come at any hour and without warning, and it was exhausting. Talking to John was useless and even less so the administration since they were silent, but it was affecting me. One night his friends came over without telling me anything. I was already in bed, about to fall asleep. I tolerated it until I had to go to the bathroom and walked past where they were playing. There was no other way to go, dressed only in boxers. I thought everything would be calm when I got back, but in the morning, John stopped me and asked me to stop walking around in my underwear. I said I had to go to the bathroom, but he told me to hold it, that I would bother his friends, all men. I counter-argued. They came over without warning, but he continued with the argument that he lived there and that they would come over whenever he wanted. That gave me an idea. The next time they came over without warning, I put on tighty-whities and started walking around. To the bathroom, to the kitchen, to do my life. John looked at me with hatred, but hey, I lived there too. Since he invited his friends over at any time without warning, I could dress however I wanted. This led to more arguments with John, but they were in vain. No one gave in. So whenever his friends came over unannounced, I would dress in my underwear or jock straps and hang around. Or we would start talking about comics. I lived my life. After a while of seeing me almost naked, they started letting me know when they were coming, and they also cut back on the frequency. When it came to renewing contracts, John didn't sign me, and it was the best part. But I stayed in touch with his friends, including a Venom fan, so that was another victory. You know, I almost thought the story was going to go in a completely different direction, and no, I do not mean intimate. I mean, OP was saying, after a while, they got so used to coming over and seeing me in my underwear that I soon came to realize I've been walking around in my underwear all this time and they don't even care. What was the whole exercise truly for? I don't know, maybe a great excuse for exposure therapy? Literally. Hemp Socks commented, "Got some guys to talk comics with? Dropped inconsiderate roommate? Found out you aren't an exhibitionist for guys? Win?" OP responded commenting, "Being in boxers was the only option I could think of, honestly. And about my friendship with that guy, it's very nice and productive. He taught me how to roleplay. Not as difficult and complex as D&D, but a role-playing game nonetheless." Mr. Great Value replied to that saying, "Can't determine if this roleplay involves the boxer and or jock straps." Our next story is how my friend got revenge on his abusive ex. My friend of 47 years was in an abusive relationship for many years, and he's finally gotten out of the situation. His ex, like abusive exes do, is making things difficult. My friend goes to an LGBTQ campground every year for his birthday. So, of course, this year, he told the ex that he was going in an effort to make sure he didn't stay there on the same weekend. Ex basically says, "Freak you, I am staying there that weekend." Now, for reference, there's a court order forbidding contact between them. So if ex goes to the campground, friend can't go because of that order. So my sweet friend, in a moment of revenge, booked a site at the campground for the entire month of August. He then called the police and notified them that this would be one of his addresses this summer, so they are aware that the ex can't be there. Now ex can't camp there at all this summer. I haven't heard an update regarding how his ex reacted, but man, I would love to see it. See, I see revenge stories like this and I'm like, I just wish I had the disposable income to blow on renting a campground site for an entire month just for revenge. I mean, I could understand renting like the weekend beforehand and tipping off the non-emergency line or something, but the entire month? Brutal B83 commented, "I assume it costs to reserve? Seems like an expensive way to get petty revenge, but if friend isn't hurting for money, it's certainly effective." Sweet Ma'am replied, "Yes, but campgrounds are $11 to $30 a night in many places, depending on hookups or just a tent site." Our next story is, revenge is a dish best served stinky. I once ate something that didn't agree with me, and my entire digestive system protested by cursing me with horrible farts. My noxious emission smelled like a corpse smothered in rotting garbage juice and dirty diapers festering in a den of skunks. It was that bad. Went to the gas station to get some ginger ale to possibly settle my stomach a bit and prevent the wife from filing for divorce, calling an exorcist, maybe even both. She'd probably have had a solid case for attempted murder at this point. This old lady was being a Karen because she forgot her ID and they wouldn't sell her a fifth of vodka. I thought I was going to be in that line forever until I felt the pressure coming on. This was my chance. I let one slip out, and it was the longest, warmest, silent fart I've ever let out. It was so foul I swear the paint on the walls changed colors, just like the cashier's face. I had never seen that shade of green on a human before. I said, "Lady, you're obviously already drunk off your face anyways. Pretty sure you just crapped your pants. It would be illegal to serve you anything." She protested angrily, turning like 3 different shades of red. The cashier retched like a cat horking up a giant hairball and, with tears in his eyes, yelled at her to get out. She tried denying it, but nobody believed it wasn't her. She stormed out, seething with rage and nausea. I felt like a stinky superhero that day. Now, I don't know, and I'm gonna have to go back and check, but I feel like OP violated some kind of violation on the Geneva Convention for leaving that cashier stranded with that fart cloud. I mean, surely something OP did here has to qualify under some clause for gas warfare. West TX Stoner 425 commented, "I am Farticus." Tired Plumber 2022 commented, "When Hirohito told the Japanese military they couldn't invade America because there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass, this is what he meant. Biological weapons behind every cheek of butt." Our next story is, "Don't get your panties in a twist, I'll be gone in 5 minutes anyway." The year is 2001, it's 8 a.m., and I'm late to the first class of the day with a professor that hates my guts. The pressure is real, and I'm getting my student crap box car out of the underground garage only to find the exit blocked by a black Nissan X-Trail. Based on the pristine condition of its paint, the poor thing had most likely never left town, and the worst obstacle it had surmounted was the curb it was now proudly blocking. Out of the vehicle steps out a creature the locals, this is south of France, call a cagole. For those of you too lazy to look it up, picture bleached blonde hair with a solid 5 centimeters of dark roots showing, skin so tanned it looks like leather, a wide open mouth full of chewing gum with a Galwa Caporal cigarette somehow precariously stuck in the corner of her mouth. Granted, I could have reacted more politely, but a combination of stress, sleeplessness, and general frustration to the fact that it was the 3rd time in 5 days that somebody had decided to ignore the big underground parking door studded with 3 no parking signs got the better of me, and I honked and yelled, asking her to move her car. Now, please, thank you. All I got in return was a finger and the scream, "Don't get your panties in a twist now, jerk. I'll be gone in 5 minutes anyway, so chill," before she disappears in one of the nearby businesses. 5 minutes pass, no sign of the cagole. 5 more minutes, nothing. Another 5. Surprisingly enough, still nothing. At this point, I am guaranteed to miss the start of my class, and I'm already looking forward to the stern and condescending scolding of the professor. I am delighted, my mood is improving by leaps and bounds, and I resign myself to the obvious. The lady is not coming back anytime soon, and my only 2 choices left are either to somehow convince her to move her car or get it towed away. Since I hadn't been the most civil during the first interaction with her, I decide to mend my way, enter the premises she disappeared in 15 minutes ago, and find her sitting cozily with a cup of coffee and another cigarette doing small talk. If looks could kill, I would have been reduced to atoms on the spot. She answered my question with a colorful, "Freak off, you little crap, can't you see I'm working here? Buzz off, I'll be done in half an hour anyway, so what are you complaining about? Get the freak out of here." She actually did come out 30 minutes later and would have escaped the tow truck had it not been for her 4 fully deflated tires. So instead, she spent 15 minutes working on her tan next to her car before the police removed it and gave her a ticket for illegal parking and another ticket for disorderly conduct and disrespect for the police force. It's never a good idea to swear and curse at the cops. Also, to this day, I still wonder if she noticed the potato I squeezed in her exhaust pipe. You know, OP is exactly why I kind of have a policy of trying not to mess with anybody in public. I mean, granted, I'm also just not going to be a jerk to the level this lady was, but still. You don't know if that person you're messing with or giving attitude to is going through the worst day of their lives, and next thing you know, you end up with 4 fully deflated tires and a potato in your tailpipe. And honestly, I would say compared to what could have happened, that would be getting off easy. Coder Joe 1 commented, "I can't believe you gave her 15 minutes. OP responded commenting, "I didn't. I called the city towing service just in case before asking her to move, and they told me they would be here in 45 minutes if needed. I wanted to be nice and give her a chance, but her final outburst pushed me over the edge, and all I needed was to find a way to keep her car immobilized for 15 minutes. Our next story is the pettiest of petty, but dang, it made me laugh, and still does. I've enjoyed lurking here and hope you'll enjoy this fond memory as much as I enjoy remembering it. It was many years ago, but I still laugh when I recall that day. I was on a highway traveling northbound. The route is divided, 2 lanes either direction. I eventually needed to exit right to get eastbound onto the interstate. A couple or 3 miles before my exit, I found myself behind a real Domingero. This guy was going about 10 under the speed limit. The typical flow of traffic in this area is 5 to 10 over, so I thought I would get over into the passing lane and get around him quick before I had to exit. I get in the left lane and he speeds up, so I speed up a little more and he guns it, so I thought, hey, he realized he's going way too slow. I'm not trying to get a speeding ticket out here, so I got back in the right lane and dropped in behind him, now doing about 5 over with several car lengths between us. But as soon as I got settled back in that lane, he starts slowing down again, and now we're going even slower, like 11 or 12 under, so I ease back into the left lane, and the SOB guns it again, now doing at least 15 over, and I can't pass without a criminal level of speeding, so I let off the gas and let him get ahead. And that's when I noticed this jerk has his driver's window all the way down. And I knew right then what I was going to do. I eased back in behind him. Predictably, he goes back to turtle speed. Third time, I get into the left lane and start to pass. He speeds up, and when he lines up so that I'm right up next to him, I veer to my right, hugging the striped line as close to him as I can legally be, and I pulled the lever to activate my windshield washer. I held it with mischievous joy, spraying and spraying and spraying. Just as I had hoped, it went straight into his open window and soaked him. I got him good, not just the arm he had propped up on the door, I got him all over the side of his stupid face. He let off the gas, shook his head like a wet dog, pretty sure I got it in his ear, and wiped his face with his hand. Laughing maniacally, I gunned it, got in front of him, and exited onto the interstate about a quarter mile later. I laughed and laughed for miles. I laughed until I cried and my cheeks and ribs hurt. I still laugh about it. Hopefully you will too. I mean, I just gotta say, I'm glad that it didn't cause like an accident. I feel like Doctor Strange, how many universes I see in my head where the spray goes right in the guy's eyes or something, or it splashes on his face and he freaks out and swerves. Like, I'm just glad it worked out in a way that you could post this on Reddit and not legally be in trouble, and you could laugh about it. Ack1308 commented, "The way I do it with those jerks is drop back 5 to 6 car spaces, wait a minute or so, and then gun it hard. He won't be watching his center mirror all that much, so when you swing into the passing lane, you're already going a lot faster than him. He'll be used to accelerating reactively as opposed to proactively, so by the time he starts putting his foot down, you're already ahead of him. Then just swing into place in front of him and set cruise control to the speed you want to go at." Sage Pence commented, "Never understood why people do this. Go slow as heck and then suddenly speed up when you want to try to overtake them. Like, why?" Our next story is, dude decided to have a full volume speaker convo in the shared space. Let's give him a taste of his own medicine. I was sitting all quiet and charging my phone at this hotel lobby. Old dude decides to come to the next bench and have a convo on speaker at max volume. I first moved to a table far away. Still heard him, that's how loud he was. I decided that freak it. I was sitting there and I'm done with people blasting their phones. I played Kill Switch Engage on half volume. Didn't want to bother the staff, but they definitely looked at me. It was high enough to disturb his call. I think he turned to say something I couldn't hear and I just kept staring at my phone. He turned down the call and then I also turned off the music. Do I like to bring myself to their level? No, I usually shush people, but this one didn't get it. And yes, him ending the call and turning his phone volume down seems like he got the message. Edit, they called him again and he answered like a normal person, phone to ear. You know, the way people used to talk without a problem. Now, I don't really want to out family, but I've been at places before where like we're sitting in a waiting room for something and the other person I'm with picks up the phone and it's not even necessarily like speakerphone, but it's just so loud and they're holding the phone like it's speakerphone and you can just hear the entire other side of the conversation. I'm like slouching down in my seat like, dear God, I hope not everybody in this waiting room is looking directly at the both of us. Tasty Comfortable 2355 commented, "On the train, woman next to me starts a video call and is almost shouting. After about 5 minutes, I start playing rock music on my phone at max volume. She glares at me and tried to continue her call. She gave up, and I instantly stopped the music. Guy sitting opposite starts to laugh and gets the death stare. Bob the Clown commented, "I have a mate that does this. I ring him once and he asked me, 'Guess what I'm doing right now?' I replied with, 'At home having a fondle?' I then heard quite a bit of background laughter as at that particular moment he was exiting a movie theater with a lot of people. He doesn't answer the phone when I ring on speaker anymore." Our next story is dealership repossesses customer's car. Customer responds by taking dealership's name. An Ohio woman who had her car repossessed by the dealership last year, even though she was approved for a loan, found an unusual means of responding. Since the dealer took her car, she decided to take their name. Now, according to a report by Court News Ohio, the case is headed to Common Pleas Court. According to court documents, Tia McCreary went to Taylor Kia in February 2024, where she decided to purchase a 2022 Kia K5. The finance manager helped arrange financing through Global Lending Services, GLS, which preliminarily approved a loan for McCreary so she was allowed to drive off in her K5. However, GLS later concluded that there was not enough available information to finalize the loan, according to the documents. So, a month after buying the car, Taylor Kia repossessed the vehicle while McCreary was at work. McCreary then began to explore her legal options. As it turned out, Taylor Cadillac and the Taylor Automotive Group operate several dealerships in Northwest Ohio, and began to operate a portion of their business under the name Taylor Kia of Lima back in 2012. However, McCreary discovered that the registration of the name Taylor Kia of Lima had been canceled by the Ohio Secretary of State's office after Taylor Cadillac failed to submit a renewal application, according to court documents. So, she registered Taylor Kia of Lima in her own name. Once that was done, documents reveal she sent a cease and desist letter to Taylor Cadillac and informed them that they could no longer use the Taylor Kia name because it was now registered to her. Then the legal battle started to heat up. Court News Ohio states that in June 2024, she filed a complaint against Taylor Cadillac and GLS in Allen County Common Pleas Court. She alleged the companies violated the Consumer Sales Practices Act, and she claimed fraud, conversion, and unjust enrichment by the dealership. She also sought an injunction prohibiting Taylor Cadillac from transacting any business under the name Taylor Kia of Lima without her consent. During the initial car purchase, McCreary signed a document that it was an agreement to settle legal matters with Taylor Automotive Group through binding arbitration. Taylor Cadillac said because of this that the case should be handled through arbitration and not trial court. The court agreed and dismissed the case, but McCreary was not giving up. She then appealed to the 3rd District. The 3rd District ruled that although McCreary had signed the agreement to settle legal matters through arbitration, that was limited to the transaction of the car sale. The claim to use the name Taylor Kia of Lima was not subject to arbitration, as it had nothing to do with the Kia purchase. So the 3rd District reversed the previous decision of the Common Pleas Court to dismiss the case. The case is now headed back to Common Pleas Court for further proceedings. You know, this is exactly why the lawyers get paid the big bucks. They got some slimy tactic that almost got the case thrown out. I mean, regardless, even if you can kind of tell that the case is a little bit ridiculous and frivolous as it is, still, that car purchase should not get an entirely different thing thrown out because, well, you signed for arbitration when you bought a car here once. Rev Chewy commented, "Reminds me of the case a number of years ago when Bank of America foreclosed on a house that had no loan on it. The homeowners had paid cash for the house. After some back and forth, the courts ruled Bank of America owed the homeowners legal costs. But Bank of America ignored the court ruling and never paid. So the homeowners got a lien against the local Bank of America branch, took it to the local sheriff's office, and took a couple of deputies down and foreclosed on the branch. They were ready to walk out with furniture and computers and such, even had a moving truck with them. The branch manager had a check for them within the hour." Perfect Sir 4820 commented, "It's also very similar to a lawsuit against Disney where they tried to claim that an arbitration agreement from a Disney Plus subscription applied to a family's wrongful death suit for an allergic reaction to a meal served at the actual park. Insane that any competent judge would entertain such an argument." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.